Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Qvist Bladeworks Variant, PE or Production Edition variant. This is based on a custom design by Jacob Lundquist. Now, that's different from the Justin Lundquist that's probably popping into your head. Are they related? I honestly have no idea. I don't think so, but I could be wrong. A quick look at the Qvist Bladeworks website shows that the custom is made in the United States. A little bit of the machining is done in Canada, but yeah, the original design made in Minnesota. Pretty cool. So this is the production edition. This is manufactured by QSP. So it is not made in the United States, but it is substantially less expensive. So just wanted to give you guys some details there. Thanks so much to the person who sent this in. They actually requested that I just give you guys the Qvist Bladeworks Instagram. So make sure you guys follow Qvist_Bladeworks on Instagram, and you can check out this knife and everything else they've got going on. Thanks so much to my generous patrons who are supporting me right now. There's a link for Patreon right down below. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Okay, let's go ahead and get a measurement of this guy. Overall length of the Qvist Bladeworks variant coming in at 7 inches. Blade length coming in at, oh, are we shy of 3 inches? Oh, that's always nice. Yeah, I think definitively shy of 3 inches. Very nice. I love seeing that. Because why? Because it makes this knife legal in so many more places, right? I don't agree with the laws. I think they're dumb. But you know, they're there, so it's nice when we can get something like this out there to people having to deal with laws like that. Cutting edge, 2.75 inches. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons. How about up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2? So you can see here it's very similar to the overall size of the Rat 2. Very nice. Unless you just love absolutely, you know, you love much larger knives, in which case maybe it won't be very nice for you. Let's go ahead and put it up against the Spyderco PM2 and Pair 3. Much closer to the size of the Pair 3. Not quite as long though. However, the cutting edge is almost identical because of the ergonomic lines of the Pair 3, mainly that forward choil. Last but not least, the Benchmade Griptilian, excuse me, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue. Still getting over this, just barely getting over this cold. Close to the size of the bug outs. But definitely shorter than both. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. Put those away. So thickness up against the Spyderco Pair 3. You can see here it is a little bit thinner than the Pair 3, which is nice. How about length and height up against the PM2 and Pair 3? You can see here it's nowhere near as long as either or tall as either. This has a swayback-esque body where we have the, or at least that's what it looks like to me, right? We have this curvature, this upswept curvature towards the butt end of the knife, which is not, something that we commonly see in the knife world, except for with other swayback designs. So there you go. The carry profile on this is very good, very preferable. Let's go ahead and do a measurement of blade stock thickness. My guess, I don't know, that looks like 120 thousandths to me, but I'm usually wrong. Maybe, let's say, I'm gonna say 115 thousandths. Blade stock thickness. Dang it, I should have stayed with 120. 120 thousandths, I think that's just fine. That's very close to like the Ritter Hogue. And considering the grind on this and the height of the blade, I think that's probably a good thickness. What are we looking at for materials? Well, in this case, we are looking at a Jade G10, and then we do have some countersunk steel liners that have not been milled out. I don't think they need that. Now, this is the production version. There are different colors of this. I don't know if they're still available. You'll have to go check on the Qvist Knives website because that's the only place that they're sold as far as I understand. The custom variants, they're all over the place. There's lots of different stuff, but this is the production version. So generally speaking, you're going to be looking at similar, you know, a G10 of some color, perhaps micarta, I honestly don't know, and then maybe a couple of different finishes on the blade. So yeah, let's go ahead and weigh it. I'm going to guess this thing weighs maybe 3 ounces. Maybe? Let's find out. Okay, 3.28 ounces. So, very close to the whole ounce and inch thing. Ratios people I think will be mildly happy. Oh, yes, okay. Golf clap, right? Ratios people giving it a golf clap. I can hear your golf clap. Yeah, I think that's fine. For me, honestly, it approaches what I consider to be ultra lightweight anyway, so I don't really care. And honestly, I don't really care so much about the ratios. It's just more about like the experience of the object in the pocket, right? Not necessarily the numbers on paper. And this is a good experience in the pocket, which I'm sure people will twist in the comments section in a humorous way. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. There we go. Get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the description. Which cracks me up when people are like, why do you say that every time? We know that. Because there's new people who come to the channel. Because there's new people every day. You silly geese. Okay. The pivot is a T8 for sure, and the rest of these screws I'm not even going to check. Them are T6. Yeah, there's only a couple on each side though, so no big deal. Just make sure you have quality tools and a place to put that stuff because they roll all over the place, and you'll be just fine. I think that's it. Let's go ahead and move into the meat and potatoes of the review here. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is I love the position of this opening hole, and I love that this space is perfectly carved out for access. It's fairly easy to get a hold of that thing if you're going to do just a, just sort of a wheel out. If you're going to do a flick, you kind of have to come out this way so as not to run into this shelf, I guess is what we're going to call it. But it does work. Reverse flick, same thing. You can use, you can get your fingernail in there if you want, like this. I prefer to kind of use the meat of my finger like this and just, yeah, my preference is to actually not do it correctly. Sorry. But yeah, that's kind of the way that I like to do it. Either way, it works really, really well. So this guy is running. Can we see it? I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see it. Can I get that where you can see all the way through there? It is running on bearings. I know it's hard to see. There we go. You can kind of see where you're seeing underneath that bearing over there on the left side. It is running on bearings, and the action is reasonably smooth. You pull that liner lock back and the blade will drop, and there's a nice little flat spot right there to catch your fingernail before it comes down on your finger, and there is no double clutch, meaning that this knife is very easy to manipulate with one hand. Not a problem. Very, very nice. At first I thought, oh, is it a front flipper? No, and even if they put some jimping right here, I know people are like, you said that about the Shaman and then you made a video about it. I don't think that, I think that it could be modified maybe, like to be a front flipper. You extend this area up and add some jimping to it, right? And then it would just essentially be a piece of metal that extended back here. So it could be, but does it need, I don't know. People who like front flippers might enjoy that. But in this form, this knife is not a front flipper. There's no way, I'm pushing as hard as I can just to see if I can get it to lift. There's not enough, you can't get enough leverage right here to make that work, but that's okay. It doesn't need to be. The scales are a peel ply textured G10, which is nice. It looks like an odd thing to hang on to, and kind of, it's more comfortable than you would think. My middle finger rests perfectly in here. You can hold it like this, but this feels weird, right? It's kind of like holding on to a hard, flat eggplant. That's very small. But up here, it's much more comfortable. I like putting my middle finger in this little cutout right here and then index finger up here in a choked up position. This is not a choil, it's just a flat area. So it's most comfortable here. You are gonna have to be cognizant of the position of your index finger so as not to run it up on the blade. There is no area there. However, I do feel pretty locked in. I don't feel like that's gonna happen, but there's no guard. So you just gotta be cognizant of it. This area is cut out slightly lower than the liner lock, giving you access to the liner lock from the side, which is great. However, I really think it should have been cut just a little bit lower. Why do I think that? Because after 10 or so disengagements, it's a little bit, it wears a bit on the finger because you're still having to kind of approach it diagonally and press your finger down and into that liner lock, which isn't cut sharp. It's just a small, thin piece of metal, and that's gonna wear on your finger. It would have been nice to have this cut just ever so slightly deeper. I just wanna approach it from the side. That's just the way that I wanna do stuff. The pivot looks nice. It's one of those, it almost looks like a mini Medford pivot, right? But on the other side, there is a Torx head, so you're able to adjust you know, the head on this side. So this is just more of a decorative pivot. Looks nice. Edges all nicely chamfered, all nicely knocked down. No issue there. The corners of the blade up here also nicely knocked down. It's not until you get out here to the edge that it gets a little bit sharp. That's no big deal. Kind of would have liked a tumbled finish on this, but I say that in every review when I'm looking at a knife with a satin finish. I just think they look a little bit better. I think they make knives that are in the budget territory, which this is, appear to be of a higher, you know, in a higher price tier. It's just, I don't know, it's just something I like, but no big deal. The blade is ground very, very well for general EDC. Like I said, not a super thick stock. We have a nice, I'm going to call this a Wharncliffe blade. Maybe it's a sheep's foot. Maybe it's a sheep's cliff. Whatever. I think these are some of the best blade shapes for EDC. Now, aesthetically, I'll always prefer a drop point. But when it comes down to actually using my knives day to day, right, and I'm not I'm not an alley ninja, or a guy who carries a grappling hook, or a guy who infiltrates the submarines or anything like that. I'm just a guy. Like I go to the post office and I go to the grocery store, stuff like that. I don't know if that's relatable to you guys, but that's generally like, that's my kind of day. So this type of blade is perfect for me because I'm going to be cutting open thin packaging material. I'm going to be cutting into cardboard, right? Some rope, maybe. Some rubber, maybe. Every now and then, maybe some wood, right? Might be doing a little bit of scraping and perhaps even a zip tie. This type of blade is great for all of that stuff. I like a tip that's pointed more down, right? So that the draw cut's a little bit easier. The tip's gonna more easily dig into packages and then be used to draw the blade backwards across the seam in between the box lids and the tape. This type of blade works really well for that. And it's also ground fairly thin. You can see there the taper out to the tip. So that's nice. It's a fully flat ground blade and there's nothing in the cutting path, and you can also get right up next to that blade. So there's a little sharpening tool right there, which is nice. I'm glad it's there. I'd rather it be there than not. I mean, you can get right up next to that blade, make full use of it. So I like that a lot. Excuse me, moving on here, you can see we have a couple of standoffs in the back. Looks nice. We have a pocket clip that is actually recessed into the G10, which is really cool. Unfortunately, there is no left-handed pocket mount. So you cannot, lefties, sorry, I guess this is not made for you. I wish the screws were recessed, but that's okay. Not that big of a deal. In and out of the pocket, this is almost a perfect experience. We have a drop in the clip and then a slight rise or swoop, which is what I always talk about. That's what I like. Nice rounded clip at the end. This is a very simple, straightforward steel clip. Not trying to do anything crazy here, but it works. It is absolutely one hand in and out of the pocket. If you have extra thick pocket seams, like if you're wearing like heavy duty work pants, it might fight you a little bit, but your regular pants, you're gonna be okay. If you're wearing athletic shorts or super duper duper tight pants, then this and many other things will probably not be a comfortable, it won't be fun, right? But for everybody else, this is gonna be good. Lockup, let's take a look back here. We do have a little stop pin. There's a little bit of rounding or shouldering on the tang, so that's nice. There is no up and down blade play. There's no side to side blade play. We are locking up at, I don't know, 50%, which is fine considering we have a thin blade stock and a liner lock. So full engagement there, that's nice. The pivot lash is the next thing I always talk about. Play right here. Not that it would really matter to me that much in this price tier, but basically what I'm checking for is to see if the pivot barrel is machined perfectly to fit the hole in the blade. So if it wasn't, you'd feel a little click, 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 click kind of movement there. No, nothing. It's actually completely and totally solid. Here's the detent. Nice. That's what I like to see. Centering. Yeah, that's perfectly centered. And it doesn't feel like, excuse me, there's any detent play at all. So, this is a weird looking knife. The whole sway back thing has never really appealed to me visually, but that's, that's an eye of the beholder thing. Me personally, I am not a fan of the sway back look, right? It really does look like an eggplant to me. Okay. Functionally, though, yeah, this is actually really easy to manipulate. My biggest gripe really is just this area right here. I just want this carved out a little bit more. But manipulation of this thing is pretty easy. This is yet another G10 liner lock that's manufactured outside the United States. It is very good, though. QSP has really, really nice quality for not only their budget knives, but their higher end stuff, right? But I think they do some of the best manufacturing work in the sub $100, like especially their sub $50 stuff is like, wow. You know, the penguin and the parrot. Holy cow, it's amazing, right? Now this knife is not quite in that price tier. It's still what I'd consider to be a budget knife. How much is it? It's $70, but I want to point out here, I know a lot of you guys are like, talk about the steel. You didn't tell us what steel it was. It's 14C28N, which is probably one of the best steels you can get in this area. It's an ingot form steel, very fine grain structure though, stainless, reasonable edge retention, very tough considering the balance, right? And it's also very easy to sharpen. This is, you know, generally speaking, it's kind of an ideal budget steel. And if you're wondering, you're like, budget? He said $70. Yeah, on this channel, anything under $75 is a budget knife to me. It might be under 50 to you, it might be under 20, it might be under 5, right? For me, it's under 70. So I'm gonna still call this a budget knife. Very high quality. I'm very happy with the quality. I'm happy with the materials. The price is a bit high, but again, we're looking at a small, I mean, the batch of these, I don't know how many batches of them there are, but I have to imagine they're all small batches, right? So from what I understand, when you order, when you have a design you want made by an OEM, first you have to have that worked out with them. But second, they charge you. It's not like you can just phone them up and be like, can you make me 500 of these and I'm going to sell them? Thanks, bye. Like, that's not how that works, right? So they're going to charge you for their work. They're going to do the work and then you market them and whatever. But in a smaller batch, you don't get nearly as good of a price, right? So if you have them do a much, much larger batch, like if you're a much larger company and you can afford to do that, then you get a better price from them. So that has to be considered. I have to imagine that these first few runs, these are fairly new as far as I understand. So maybe this is the first run. Probably, not the best price that QSP could possibly offer in terms of how large the batch was, right? But that's understandable. So there has to be room for Qvist to actually make money. So the price is reasonable, right? I would kind of have guessed, like if this was a much larger production company, that this would be something like a $55 or $60 knife. So we're looking at a $10 to $15 difference between, in this specific example, which may or may not be perfectly accurate. This is a very long-winded way of saying the price is okay, and the design is pretty good. It's a pretty good knife. It's nothing spectacular or crazy. Not a huge fan of the aesthetic, but everything else works here. I think this is pretty good. If you like how this looks, I think you'll be happy with this. So check out Qvist Bladeworks. Check out their website. That's the best thing I can do for you, because I think that's the only place where they are sold. Thanks again to the person who sent this to me for review. I appreciate that. Glad I got a chance to check it out. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.